so it's going to pick up, and that recording will come to you. There we go. That recording will come to you as soon as it comes back to me from Microsoft Teams. It's a bit erratic at the moment, you know, with the world, their wife and their children all on the internet and Teams and etc. Sometimes it can be an hour, sometimes it can be a couple, sometimes it can be 3 or 4. But as soon as it comes to me, I'll send it across to you with your action notes. So I scribble down a load of notes whilst we're talking, which sometimes mean you might hear, first of all, some scratching around. That's me writing, or I might go a bit quiet, and that's me desperately trying to write quicker as we do that. But most importantly, your coaching calls are always a safe and confidential space. What we talk about stays between us and your coaching session, which basically means that you can let rip about anything or anyone you like, and it won't go any further. So if somebody's cheesed you off or you're frustrated about something, you can vent frustration as much as you like, and that is something that will stay completely within the coaching call and remain there. What goes on in coaching stays in coaching, as they say. So are you ready?
Yes.
Super job. So the first session for me, in a lot of ways, is just getting a better understanding of your business, and I start that off by just asking you some questions so that we can get going. And what I'm going to do first of all, Stella, is I'm going to ask you the first question and the following ones, but what I'd like you to do is to put yourself in a mindset of never having met me before. So you know, imagining that I don't know anything about you or your business, and the first thing that I'm going to ask you is, why do you do what you do? Not what you do yet, but why do you do what you do, Stella? Tell me a little bit about that.
Because it's my passion, basically. I love teaching. I particularly love teaching horse riding. I'm happy to teach anything. I could be teaching about the sex life of snails, and if I'm interested enough, then that will get me going. In terms of coaching and working with people on a one-to-one basis, same deal really. I'm constantly involved in personal development for my own person, and it's a wanting to share that and to help other people to get to a place where they can enjoy life in whatever way that means for them. For me, my personal development, I often think, I wish I'd have known this years ago, because life is just so less stressful and much more enjoyable. And I don't get hung up on inconsequential things that I used to get all hot under the collar about or upset about. So life is much more on an even keel. That's not to say that I don't get angry at times and I don't get emotional, because I do, and I'd be a bit worried if I didn't. But it's just generally, it's doable, and if something comes up, I have the skills to be able to deal with it myself. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm married to somebody who does the same stuff as well. So if I get stuck, I'll go to him. And then really all the things that I do within my business, the yoga, the Bowen therapy, they all dovetail because one informs the other. So from a yoga perspective, yes, that's good for the body in general. But if you're a horse person, there are lots of parallels between horse riding and yoga in terms of balance, alignment, breathing, all that sort of stuff. So hang on a minute, Gina. Because I'm in the middle of my coaching call. No, I know, I'm just saying. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, yep, right. Sorry, I'm doing it up here. Hubby's just gone out. So anyway, where was I? Yes, so the yoga is all about that. Then I'm very passionate about health and looking after my health in any way possible, but as naturally as possible. So I avoid anything that's got any nasty chemicals or anything in. And again, that spills over into the horses side of things. So if I want to keep myself nice and natural, then I need to keep them nice and natural. So it all sort of dovetails in, and it's just a matter of, I find it fascinating to have a problem, if you like, that somebody else has got, either in their riding, in the yoga, whatever it might be, and they go, oh, I don't know about that. I'll go and do some research. And then I'll go off and do some research, which then I can feed back to the person. Sometimes it's not in a professional capacity. It's just two people talking, friends. And then I benefit from that because I've learned something new. They've benefited from it. And then I sort of put that in my kit bag. So it's all that. I'm an eternal learner.
Mm-hmm.
And are you familiar with the Gallup Strength questionnaire thingy?
Yep.
Okay, so you won't be surprised maybe, but my number one talent in my strengths and the Gallup Strength is learner. And when I saw that, I was like, yep, next. tell me something I don't know.
I don't know. Yes.
Yeah. So, and the next thing is individualization. And that's also something that I've done as a natural talent, but I hadn't actually quantified it or put a label on it until I did the Gallup Strength. And I went, oh, is that what you call it? And it's just, I have an innate ability to know what a person wants or needs in the moment that they need it. So even if I say, for example, I'm teaching someone the horse riding, even though I might have an idea in my head of what I want to teach in that lesson on that particular day, I look at the person and I go, that's not going to work. And I just instinctively come up with something, and sometimes I don't even know where it comes from, and it's just the right thing, and it might have a very tenuous link to riding, but it's appropriate and it works. Okay. So that's my second strength. So
awesome.
that's why I do what I do.
Okie dokie. And in the same sort of frame of mind, again, imagining that I've got absolutely no idea about you or your business.
Yeah.
Tell me now what it is that you do.
Okay. Well, I wear various hats, but as I said earlier, they all dovetail in together. So I'm a life coach and therapist, and I've termed it that way because I can do the coaching and I can give people advice, but mainly, and I think there are some misconceptions as to what therapy is. So people think that you might be a shrink. For me, what I do is not purely coaching that I hear and see other people doing. I have the skills to be able to help people release negative emotions. So for me, it's not sufficient that we identify someone's issue, whether it's an emotional issue. So it might be a negative emotion or a limiting belief. It's not enough to identify that, because that's fine, but then what do you do with it? So that's where I come in, because I can help the person release that negative emotion or that limiting belief so that it doesn't interfere with them again. So from that perspective, I might consider myself unique compared to some others who work in the same field but may not have. Yoga teacher. I'm a yoga teacher and a yoga sports coach, which is very subtly different. A yoga teacher tends to be, as you would imagine, a yoga teacher. We have our own personal style of which type of yoga that we like, and of those there are many. Mine is Ashtanga, which is quite dynamic, which is the type of person I am. I'm quite energetic. And And a yoga sports coach uses yoga for people who are sporty, whichever sport they might be in. So could be riding, it could be cycling, whatever. And we look at areas that they're struggling with, and then use yoga postures to assist them to get the performance goals that they want. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, doing an hour of yoga, and however many postures that might include. It might be hand-picked postures that are specific to that person. So Bowen therapy I do with horses and people. That works with the soft tissue and the muscles of the body, and works with anything and everything from when you popped out the womb until you step into your coffin. What else do I do? I do the biohacking. So that again links into the health and wellness, not just for people, but for horses as well, because it looks at working with the body at a cellular level. I'm big into anti-aging, but I don't want to have Botox. I don't want to have anything sucked out or anything put in. So for me, it's I love learning about all the scientific things about how the body works, but I'm not, you wouldn't find me in a laboratory, because I'd be bored solid. Because if I didn't find in the first 5 minutes, then I'll go next. So I'm sure if I was born as a child now, I'd be classed as ADHD. So, and then recently I've added mentor to my list, and that's specifically related to the teaching side of it, because I've been a riding instructor now for over 40 years, and without seeming immodest, I thought I was pretty good as a teacher before, because again, it's just a natural thing for me. I didn't really have to think about it. But I learned how to do it, and the mechanics of, structuring a lesson and all of that. And then I studied NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, and that has made my teaching even better, because now I have much more, many more skills in my toolbox to be able to go, oh, how does this person learn? So the NLP skills have been invaluable. So, and it's not always about just knowing what to teach. To a certain extent, anybody could teach walk, trot and canter, but it's a matter of, if they don't get it and you just keep repeating yourself, then you're still going to get the same result. So for me, the excitement is, okay, this person isn't getting it. How can I explain it in such a way that they get it? And so that for me is the fun part, because I use analogies and metaphors, and I'm a bit of a wordsmith. So I like communication, which is basically what NLP is. It's the art of communication. So I find lots of different ways of communicating with my pupils, whether they're children, whether they're on the autistic spectrum, whether they're older people, male, female, and if I struggle in a particular lesson, then I'll go away afterwards and I'll ponder it and rummage around until I come up with the solution, and then I'll put that into play next time if I have the opportunity, if it's appropriate.
Okay.
I think I've
Okie dokie. So no, it's important to sort of drag all this stuff out, because the thing then that I'm looking at here on my calligraphy of notes is there are a lot of different things here that you do. How do you bring all of this together into something that people can understand? What is your main focus, Stella, to put all this together as a business?
The horses, basically.
Okay.
They link it all together, because it's all applicable. So from the coaching side of things or the therapy side of things in terms of, you know, messing with your head. There are lots of horse riders out there with confidence issues, either because they've had a fall or something, or they've got anxiety because it's a performance anxiety thing. You know, will I do this competition well enough and good enough, and am I good enough for my horse, and all that sort of stuff. There's also equestrian bullying, so there's people who, you know, benefit from that perspective. Horse riding instruction, if they have me as their instructor, they get more than that, because I introduce the psychology of it. I'll talk about things that I've learned from a Bowen therapist perspective in terms of alignment and how the body works, bringing in also stuff that I've learned from yoga and from Huna with the breathing, and also about the mindset. And it's not just about positive mindset, but it's about changing the way you think in terms of principles and philosophies that perhaps aren't mainstream, and really challenge people to think differently. And the same with the biohacking, because that's applicable to, again, with people and horses, because if you're not well, what have you got? Doesn't matter if you've got £1 million in the bank. If you're not well enough to enjoy it, what's the point? Yes, it can smooth the waters for you, but you know, so that's where I'm at. Excuse me a minute.
Okay. You're right.
Yeah. They sod's law. It's a bit like your Tesco's thing. They told us we were having an electricity safety inspection. Is that all bloody day? And now you're but he can't do it anymore.
Honestly, you couldn't write it, could you? I mean, you know, it's that whole thing this morning at Grow On. You know, I was sitting there thinking I was due another delivery, a DHL delivery, and it had popped up saying it would come between X and Y, which was supposedly right at the end of the meeting. No, it came right in the middle of the foresight.
Yeah.
And you know, and you just think, oh, flipping heck. But you know, there you go. It's at least so you know, it's the ungainly. Sorry, I'm gonna have to just go. You know, Dylan's going mental, and I'm trying to move everything out of the way. It's just, yeah, classic. It's classic. You can guarantee
and
it.
of course, Ken's left as well because Ken was
So, yes.
so it wasn't going to be a problem. But he can't do it anyway because he can't get to his equipment that he needs. So he's going to have to come back another day.
Oh, just frustrating. Yes, you know, Ollie's at work as well, so it's just he's bless him this morning. He said, "Oh, I've got to go in this afternoon." It's like, "Oh, it's fine. We'll cope." So, Stella, when we look at knitting all this together,
yes,
some of the things that I've written down just whilst you know having that little space is what's the phrase that comes to me here is that what you do if it effectively is that you treat the whole relationship and bond between horse and rider, because there's all sorts of things in here that you can do. Horses is the link, as you said, but it's not just thinking about you know the psychology of the rider. You're also thinking about you know their health, their the physicality of riding through the yoga sports coaching, all those sorts of things. So the killer question then is, what do you want coaching to do for this business?
make me some money. Which
Okay.
is how that is so unlike me as an answer, which is actually good because it shows how much I've
hold that thought, Stella, because that tells you that the Tesco guy's here. This is just priceless, isn't it? Right, hang on a minute. I'm going to just take my ears out and pop them on the desk and shut the door. I'll be back as soon as I can. Dilly. Okay, now please. Yes, I am. You too? Yeah. Oh, we've just announced that we're going back to. I heard the radio. I think that. Yes, it is. I do any of the best. One of those ones. Express with the red. It goes everywhere. Yeah, It's like you've been auditioning for, you know, some kind of horror massacre film, and then you get the rest of it. And you got after me?
You are very welcome. Take care.
And you, love. I'll see you soon. Take care. Thank you. All right. Shush. Shush, shush, shush. Just get these in there. Good lad. I'm back.
Okay. So yeah. You first.
Are you there, Stella?
I am, yes. I lost you.
Oh, hang on. No, hang on. There we go.
Okay.
Can you? There we go. Yeah, that's all right. It's just earpods were a bit slower than I was. Right. Hopefully that will be the last bit of of Faff Fandango. So I left you hanging on the response of you're looking for coaching to help you make an income out of it. So
Yeah.
can you give me just a little bit of an insight as to why that is a challenge at the moment? What's stopping this happening in the way that you want it to?
That's a good question. I think previously, if you look at values, then money was never one of my top values. So as a general rule, I'm not motivated by money. You can't dangle money in front of me and go, right, come now. That's why if you think of network marketing and they say, oh, you can make 2 million quid tomorrow.
Yep.
But you've got to, bounce up and down on your head and do 2 backflips and all the rest of it by 6 o'clock tonight. I'd go, yeah, next. Because that doesn't motivate me. So my thing is about wanting to help people. And so that's my number one driver. But I have upped my value of money. It was number 2 rather than number 1, which number 1 can be a bit, that's all they're motivated by, and they'll do anything to get money. So that's not me anyway. But I am, as part of my development, I'm learning to value myself, and also I think as well, I was too attached to getting it. So we have a saying in network marketing, marry the process and divorce the outcome. And I've been aware of that concept, but worded differently prior to that. But I don't know that I ever achieved it, because I was always very invested in the fact that, somebody was going to spend their money with me, or and if they didn't, I used to get upset. Whereas recently, somebody was inquiring about Bowen therapy for their horse, And we had a little chat on the phone, and she'd spoken to somebody else who'd also could provide the same service. And the difference between us was that I charged for traveling because I wasn't in her local area, and also I wanted payment or up front for the treatment, which is 3 sessions. So she decided that even though her instincts wanted to come with me, she was going to go with the other woman. Now, in previous, if I'd experienced that previously, 6 months, 12 months down the road, I'd have gone rassing and fassing and like, what's the matter with me? Oh, I must be awful. I must be this, you know how it goes. Anyway, and I didn't. I went, okay, fine, next. Interestingly, a week later, she comes back to me and she says, this other lady can't do it now. Can you do it? Can we do it on the day that I wanted at the time that I wanted? And because I only get paid weekly, can I pay you weekly in advance instead of all up front in advance? And I said, yes, of course you can. And she went, okay, that's it. And then it was done. But it was like I had no investment in whether she had me as her therapist or not. And so it just worked the way it worked. And so it was really good. It then transpired that I knew her when I got there and went, oh, don't I know you? But anyway, so that's quite a change for me in terms of I love what I do, but I need to make a workable living out of it so that I can afford to pay my way. Unfortunately, with the horse riding instructing that I do at the riding school, I'm not paid what the going rate is for my instructorship. However, the flip side to that is I get to choose my own hours, I get to wear what I want when I want it, and I get to teach the way I want to rather than following somebody else's formula. So there is a little of a payoff.
Okay.
With that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, bills still have to be paid. And so it's a matter of finding that balance between being able to do what I love and help as many people and horses as I can and earn a living wage. And actually I'd quite like to earn slightly more than a living wage so that, I don't have to look at the weather and think, oh my God, it's going to snow, I'm not going to be able to earn any money. Okay. At the moment, my thinking is slightly different because we're in lockdown and I can't earn any money anyway. But that's been my historical experience, if you like. I've come into autumn worrying myself into an early grave because I've been looking at the weather thinking, oh my God, if we have too much rain and it floods, I won't be able to get to the riding school, my pupils won't be able to get to the riding school, and then I won't earn the money, and then I won't be able to pay my bills, and so it's all gone that way. So that's what I'm looking at.
Okie dokie. So what springs to mind to me, first of all, is in some way or another, we need to streamline the message a little bit because you have got a really impressive range of skill sets and business tools and business abilities. From the outside in, it all feels a little bit confusing. So I think that one of the first things to do is to think about, what is your main purpose? And just from the conversation we're having so far is the whole, what you want to do is what you love doing, but you want to monetize it. And the things that you've talked to me about that you love doing is, is learning, passing on that knowledge, particularly in the world of horse riding, with regards to that whole thing of treating the whole relationship and bond between horse and rider. It's not just the riding instructing, it's how all these things knit together. Yeah. So one of the first things that I would think about there is that, one of the sources of income that you potentially have comes through networking. But I think what's quite different about the advice I'm going to give you about networking than I would do somebody who doesn't have as an extensive range of things they can offer, is you're going to need to think about slightly different approaches for different groups that you network in. Saddle Up is an easy target market for you. But I think what you need to think about in there is not necessarily that they are an easy target market, but what do you want them to buy from you?
Yeah.
Because if you know what that is, it makes it much easier to do a 40-second intro, particularly that focuses on what you want the outcome from that group to be. So these are my words now, Stella. You know, I'm looking at all the things you've talked about. Your message for Saddle Up absolutely needs to be, I treat the whole relationship and bond between horse and rider from what did I write here? Confidence, performance, empathy, support, instruction, psychology, fitness were all the words that I was brainstorming as you were talking to me. And this is partly why we record this. While you were talking to me,
keep stopping that to write all that down.
But it's thinking, you know, that in a nutshell for Saddle Up is your shop front. I've got all the different ways you can help them is the stuff that you talk about when you have your one-to-ones. But when you've got that shop window moment in the 40 seconds, it's thinking about, you know, the obvious bits. This is who I am. This is the name of my company. But then trying to get right there in the palm of your hand, the whole, and this is why you need it. And this, the problems that you solve. And this is how I make that happen. Yeah. Now it's the making that happen that you might want to take a little bit of an out there approach to think about how you can monetize this in a world where you can't guarantee on being able to do riding instruction, particularly in the way that you would have done pre-COVID. So, you know, whereas weather's been an issue now, it's like, who knows? Because if there's anything that 2020 has taught all of us, is we have absolutely no control over the bigger picture, even though we try and tell ourselves we do, we don't.
Yeah.
So one of the things that occurs to me here is there is an opportunity, I think, for you to start to put some of the knowledge and the way you can help people online and start to think about monetizing online content. Now, I'm not talking about great long online e-courses of 20 plus modules and all that kind of malarkey. Yeah. I'm thinking in my head about short, sweet, problem-focused, solution-specific 15, 20-minute, half an hour modules, let's say. So looking back through my notes here for a second. So one of the things you talked about with the yoga sports coaching was how you can use yoga postures to improve results. You were talking about, you know, balance, alignment, and breathing. Okay. So something that particularly that you might want to think about there, you're going to know this better than I am, Stella, so the words might be clumsy, but let's say that one of the things as a riding instructor that you see very often are riders struggling with muscle stiffness because they are not sitting in balance on their horse. They're sinking into one hip. I'm thinking way back to when I was doing riding, you know, they're sinking into one hip, or their heels aren't down far enough, so they're starting to cramp through the back of it, all that kind of thing. Yeah. That you focus on problems that you see frequently when you are instructing. Yeah. And then you either demonstrate, if you're happy to be filmed doing that, or you know, you diagram it, if you see what I mean. So, you know, if you were suffering, I'm going to pick one out of thin air. If you're suffering from lower back pain in the, you know, the lower left quadrant above your hip, it's highly likely that it's because you're riding in imbalance. Here are 2 yoga exercises, or postures rather, you can use to improve your alignment and your core stability. And it's taking the knowledge that you've got and getting it out there in small bite-sized chunks that are easy for people to access. And you could think then about, and again, I'm talking just pulling numbers out of thin air. So you could put together maybe 5 modules that look at the most frequent problems you see with regards to balance and alignment, let's say.
Yeah.
And you think about whether or not you want to be filmed showing people what to do, or whether or not you want to, diagram what you want to do, whatever that is, and you put that together into a short online module that you then look to sell.
Yeah.
So what you need to think about with that is it's easily done these days, genuinely. If you've got any kind of smartphone and you're prepared to invest about 30 quid in a phone holder that has a light built in, the world's your oyster from there on in. And what you'd need to do though is to think about how you bring all these things in together. So with this one, I would be introducing it, if I was you, as, hello, I'm Stella James of, this is the name of my company, as, a qualified riding instructor who with over X years of experience, and as a qualified yoga sports coach, I see these problems when I'm riding, instructing over and over again. And here is how you can improve this problem with my simple steps to either, improve your balance, And you have them, as I say, in these short modules so that you've got options. People can buy one module, or they can buy the whole lot.
Yeah.
And you're thinking then about, and again, I'm throwing figures out of thin air here. So if you've got let's say it's 15 minutes, if you've got a 15-minute module that's going to help people deal with a lack of alignment or balance, and it takes you potentially a couple of goes to record it, so 30 minutes, maybe 45 of your time, I think you could happily sell that at around about £7.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking, okay, well, there's 5 of those that I've got at £7 each.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, you can buy all 5 for 30, saving you £5. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing where you could then develop that from the yoga sports coaching. I chose balance. You also talked about breathing and alignment. So there's another 2 areas you could think about with that.
Yeah.
You can then also think about bringing in the other things that you've talked about having this great series of expertise in. So you could bring your life coaching element into the, and I'm just talking horse riding sphere at the moment, with your confidence and performance issues. So, have you had a significant, I mean, I can see her in my head. I don't know if you've ever met Katie May, but she used to be the group. Yeah. Kate, she didn't ride in over a year because she had a fall.
Yeah.
And and I know what that's like. When you're a teenager, and a 5-foot fence on a 3-day eventing course doesn't cause you any fear at all, because you're invincible and you're going to bounce. It's a very, very different ball game when you're 50.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking there that you've got the other opportunity to think, okay, if I start to look at the ability of taking my knowledge and monetizing it online, I can start potentially with the yoga element. Then I could think about looking at the coaching element, about helping people who may have confidence issues after a fall. And, here are some techniques that you can use to help restore your confidence, and help manage your anxiety. Here are some things that you can use to understand how to create, an empathic environment between you and your horse.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount you could do. I mean, there's masses that you could do here. And I think that the first bit, if you like, would be to think about which one you would find the easiest to start with. I chose the yoga element to talk to. You might be thinking, actually, I don't know that that's where I'd want to start. I might want to start with talking more about how, biohacking is an essential part of this, that, and the other. But what I want you to put your head on about that is, for the Saddle Up group, you've got the opportunity to offer them short, sharp fixes to common problems that riders have that you see and you know about, and you've got masses of experience of being able to treat at a low initial cost, and you are drip feeding more things out there to them. So instead of thinking, holy moly, that's about 40 odd things I've got to do, is think, no, I'm going to start with 5 things about the yoga element, let's say. So when you go into Saddle Up, you can then think, what do I want the people in Saddle Up to buy from me today? I want them to buy my bundles, my yoga bundle for 30 quid. That's what I want them to buy. So if you've then got a really good focus about what do I want people to talk to me about today in Saddle Up, hi, my name's Stella James, I've got this great module together. It's going to give you everything you need to know to use the basics of yoga sports coaching to improve these problems. And you can get the whole bundle for just £30. The link's going to be in the chat. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. And that's Saddle Up.
Yeah.
But the same thing will apply when you're thinking about some of the other meetings that I know you go to. I know you do Empowered Women, for example, and be thinking, okay, what have I got that would be relevant to that market? What could I pull together that would give them something that potentially to buy, or even just a reason to want to get on my mailing list so I can tell them a bit more about what it is that I do? And that could be simply be, a tip sheet potentially that you create that helps people with assertiveness, maybe. There's a big, as you all well know, there is a big misconception that being assertive is being bolshy, arrogant and pushy, and it isn't. Being assertive is actually about confidence and about self-esteem, which women struggle with more than men do, generally speaking. So you might want to think about, what about if I put something together that addresses self-esteem and confidence? And it could be, a 15-minute module where it is you talking, to camera about ways that you can address it. Maybe, with a few bullet points on a PowerPoint slide or something like that. So what I'm really trying to pull out here, if you like, and knit into some sort of sensible activity, is you have got bags of knowledge, huge amount of knowledge in all kinds of different spheres. If you want to start to make money out of it, let's start looking at how you can do that now in a world where you can't guarantee on being able to get out and instruct. So it's also a world that just, in less than a year has become all about being online. And so if you can be in that space in some way or another, you've got a product you can sell, and then you're looking at how, getting in front of a market that you can sell it to. Saddle Up's a really obvious one there, but it also gives you a marketing channel. What am I selling? Selling passion is brilliant, and that's exactly what people, excuse me, I've got hiccups. That's what people will buy. They will buy from you. The fact that they might be buying 5 bundles, 1 bundle, doesn't matter. They're going to buy from you. But if you don't have a clear product they can identify you with, it makes it difficult for them to take that step from I'm interested to I'm prepared to give you some of my money. So there are some practical things to think about here before we crash on further, which is, how do you do this and where do you put it? So I know that you've built your own website. So one of the things that you could think about there is looking at how easy it would be to add a e-commerce section to your website. And by that I mean a really simple click here to buy module 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, or click here to buy the whole lot. Okay, so have a think about that. What I'm also going to do is send you a link to something that I'm using, which you're going to see next week, which is something called Member Vault, which you could link your website to. So Member Vault would allow you to create a product potentially called yoga sports coaching for riders or something like that, that's got the single modules in and the bundle and a link to pay, you're just pointing people towards it from your website. You can brand it to look very much like your website is, but you don't have the time vacuum of having to set up an e-commerce module or something like this. It's worth having a look at. The reason I chose it for what I'm launching on Monday, which you'll get access to for free as a coaching client, is because the WordPress plugins for membership modules are eye-wateringly expensive. And what I wanted was a membership style platform that initially was free to begin with, so that I could basically see if it was going to pay for itself. And MemberVault does that very well. And what this also gives you then is an opportunity to think about, if you put the time, which is the only cost at the moment, if you choose to go with building your own e-commerce section on your own website, or if you choose to go with MemberVault, the only cost at the moment is time.
Yeah.
Once you've done it, you have a rinse and repeat product that's there all the time. That you can be referring to. So when you write a blog post, for example, on your website, you can refer people to one of your yoga modules. There's a link in the bottom. Does this sound interesting? Do you suffer with lower back pain? Why don't you go and take a look at this? Once you've done it, once you've written and produced it once, you can rinse and repeat it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So I think to begin the process of how do I get the passion and the love for what I do to start to make me a decent living, is thinking, how can I get this in front of people now, in a world where I don't have control over the ways I would have done that before. What I can control is giving people access to my knowledge online. And something that you might want to think about going forward from that, Stella, is doing things like this, like we're doing. People who might want to have coaching to get over their anxiety, that you could focus on either of those markets. The saddle up market, thinking Katie May, if you have a horse you've not ridden because you've had a bad fall and it's really shaken your confidence, then, and these are my words because you'll obviously have much more experience than I do in this instance, but you could say, just 2 30-minute sessions with me could be enough to help you manage your fear, restore your confidence, and get back to riding. And it's a similar thing, because you're doing it with me. You don't need anything on your website other than potentially a means for people to book 30 minutes with you. You can do it on the phone. I choose to record things mostly because it's an hour, and we talk about a lot of things in an hour, so recording it just helps to be able to go back to if you want to. But you could think about, if I did 30 minutes, I wouldn't necessarily have to record it. It could be on the phone. It doesn't have to be on Zoom or on Teams. And, how much would I charge for 30 minutes of my time?
Yeah, that's usually my stumbling block, is knowing what to charge that's accessible for other people and is acceptable for me, because it's like, I'm aware that other people are possibly in the same situation as I am, so they have to use wise discernment as to what they sign up for or not. And at the same time, there are others out there who don't have that issue and could afford anything I said, almost.
Yeah.
So it's finding balance.
So what I'm going to ask you, Stella, is what do you charge for horse riding instruction?
If it's for me privately, it's £45 an hour.
Okay.
That's not get paid at the riding school, but then that's a different thing.
So what I want you to think about there then is that £45 an hour for riding instruction with you, I am assuming here again that, you know, that covers the time it takes you to get to wherever you need to go and da-di-da-di-da. So when you're looking at doing something online,
Yeah.
your costs are much less. Again, it's coming back to time. So in an ideal world, Stella, if you could wave a magic wand, how much money would you want to be earning each day?
In an ideal world, £100.
Okay, so if we have a look at that and effectively divide that up into an 8-hour working day, okay, that comes in at £12.50 an hour. All right. If I take that down into a far more acceptable 6-hour working day, that's still only £16 an hour. So I think if you were to say, if you want 30 minutes of one-to-one coaching with me, I think if you put that out there at £25 per hour, you only got to do 4 of those in one day and you've made your £100.
Yeah.
So 2 hours work and you've made your target of £100 that day. What, if in the nicest sense, what needs to happen here is the first steps, and I'll put all this in your notes, is I think for you to go away and think about what bite-sized chunks could I do first, and what one-to-one coaching could I do first, one-to-one services could I do first. Things that would be fairly easy and fairly swift to be able to get into place, so that you can then think, okay, you know, it's the 27th of January. And again, these are just, you know, what I want to have done before I talk to Sheena next time is have mapped out the 5 modules I want to do, potentially have done one, you know, to kind of see what it feels like and how it works, and to have thought about the one-to-one services I want to offer, and I will have started to market those in my networking. And thinking about what's relevant for where you are networking that day. I mean, I picked empowered women out there. Obviously, Saddle Up is another one. You know, if you were to go to midweek motivation, let's say, simply because I've just agreed to foresight for them next week because their foresight has let them down. You know, so, you know, midweek motivation, you could think about, right, what have I got in my skill set, in my tool bag that I could create that fits that market, and say, you know, if you'd like a 30-minute one-to-one coaching session with me to, you know, to think about what motivates you and how you can be mindful of what motivates you, so that every day you are having the best day that you can. All you need to do is use the booking link in the chat window. You could even, if you wanted to, Stella, think about giving 4M members a special deal. And you know, normally £25 an hour, but for 4M members it's only 20, let's say. And think about doing that. So, you know, your next steps in the short term, I think, should be to, you know, sit down with a good old-fashioned pen and paper and think, right, what have I got that I could put out there, either as one-to-one coaching or online material. Which do I want to do first? And when do I want to do it by? And then you can also use your social channels to do a very clever little bit of market research. So I know that you are well connected, LinkedIn, Facebook groups, etc. Get in there and ask questions like, if you could have 30 minutes one-to-one coaching with me, that to address, pick a couple of specific problems, would you prefer half an hour on the phone, half an hour on Zoom, that kind of thing? You know, if you wanted to have half an hour one-to-one coaching with me to help you improve your self-esteem and assertiveness, you know, would you want that to be morning, afternoon, evening? The one thing that I always say to people is, don't ask people to tell you what price they'd be prepared to pay.
Yeah.
But because all you'll do is get some smart aleck going, well, I wouldn't pay you anything. And then the whole post just becomes a complete keyboard warrior fest after that. It's the same way when you see people on Facebook, you see some 4N members do it, and it also stinks of desperation, is when they go, just pay me whatever you like. And you think, no, you know, you need to have a firm price. Pay me whatever you like just makes it sound like you're desperate for anything. And of course, you open up the same problem. People will come in and say, well, I won't pay you anything. And I did that to a 4N member last year who put this package up, you know, all these, I mean, it wasn't something I wanted, but I was just kind of making a point. It was all these PowerPoint templates that were all just that, you know, for online advertising, blah, blah, blah. Normally retails at £199, but pay what you want. And so I got on the thread and said, well, I don't want to pay you anything. And she got in touch and went, I didn't think that through, did I? I went, no, you really didn't. You know, you've just told everybody that it's normally X quid, but you can pay me whatever you want. Of course, people are going to come back and go, that will be a big fat zero. So, you know, use your Facebook pages and your LinkedIn groups to ask the questions, which in its own way, Stella, also serves as very gentle teaser marketing, because you're not actually telling them why you're asking the questions, but you're getting that feedback. And, you know, if that feedback, you know, a question you could ask, for example, would be, would you want a one-to-one coaching session with me to be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes? And, you know, if the preference comes back strong, you know, more strongly for one of those options, then you think, okay, well, if they're saying 45 minutes, I could do that. I'd have to charge more than initially thinking £25. So, you know, it's then thinking if it's £25, £20 an hour, that's roughly £5 every 15 minutes. So we're now, blah, blah, blah. It's that kind of thing. And then one of the things I love about how COVID has changed people's business mindset is map this out, think about what you would like to do first, and then throw it out there and see if it sticks. Because if it doesn't, you've lost nothing but time, and you've still created content that you can use to promote your business. But I think it's a great place to start thinking about monetizing your passion and your knowledge with something that has no cost, monetary cost to you right now, that potentially you could get started pretty quickly.
Well, I'm buzzing at the moment, so that's really good. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
There's something, I don't know if you've come across it, but there's something called PIVO, and a PIVO Silver is what all the horse riders are using. And I've been sort of prevaricating and umming and ahhing and weighing up the pros and cons since probably about November. And what it is, it's exactly what you were talking about, you know, putting your phone on and recording. The difference with this thing is that it detects movement. So it moves as you move. So potentially I could be riding in the indoor school and have my PIVO set up, and it will follow me around the school wherever I go. So I don't another person, and I think you can get sound or without sound or whatever, and they're not terribly expensive. I think they're about £100, and there's one of the particular ones, because they do different models, not surprisingly, and there's one specific one that's better for horse people than the others. So I've been thinking about that, and also I have access to a horse at the moment who's not mine, and I'm to be looking after him for the owner until March. And I was planning to take him on as my own, but to have 3 horses with no income is a bit challenging, to say the least. But I love him lots, and I've had my eye on him for a number of years. But he would be perfect to be able to do written snippets on, because then I could demonstrate awful riding on him and then demonstrate the required riding on him. and he would just bimble around. So, do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Whereas my horse, I could ride him, but he's a bit more what's the word? Demanding, in so much as you have to have your focus. Because if I don't know that he would tolerate that. So yes. So my question, if I were to do a 15-minute thingy demo, like a yoga thing, would I just, before I get my PIVO, that is. So if I recorded it, then do I keep it on my, record it for myself and then send it to the person? Or, and then if they're paying, do I do it like through Eventbrite, or how would that work?
So the way I would envisage it at the moment is, first and foremost, do the first ones without investing money in a PIVO. Do the first, the first couple just using your phone. So pick a subject that would be easier to do that with.
Right.
It depends which platform you decide to use. If you decide to use your own website and create an e-commerce module, then what would actually happen is that video would be a product on your website that people would download, or that you could set up to download when they've put the purchase order through. The reason I suggested Member Vault is that platform makes all of that much easier.
Right.
Because you effectively go, here is this module, buy now. When they get access to it, they've got the option to automatically download it, and the payment has already been taken. Now, Member Vault uses PayPal.
Yeah.
Or there you go. Yeah, I was going to say that's easy peasy. When it comes to the one-to-one coaching, then that would be more about, saying to people, if you plan to do these as one-off sessions, which I think is possibly the way to go, that they pay beforehand, and it's a really simple PayPal transaction. Yeah. Here's the link to pay. You need to have paid 24 hours before your session, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The yoga thing would probably be the easiest, because I could do that at home and just have, just record it off my iPad. Rather than having to involve a live animal.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So start there, have a think about that. And as I say, when we then catch up in 4 weeks' time, see where you've got with it, and then we can talk about how you market it and how you can leverage, the network to start to get eyes on your product and start to monetize it.
So talking about next time, because I only booked this one on your calendar, so are we saying that the next one then will be the 27th of February?
Yeah, I think I sent I did. So the original appointment that I sent through was recurring, and it is the last Wednesday of the month, there or thereabouts. So obviously February lands straight on February. So yeah, you're in the diary there for the 24th of February, same time, 3 o'clock.
Okay, fine. I obviously I either didn't read it, or these things.
There's a lot going on out there at the moment, Stella, don't worry.
Oh. Sometimes I almost feel I'm meeting myself coming
backwards. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. But yeah, that's all good.
It is good, because you're obviously psychic, because this is exactly what I've been thinking, although not in the I've been thinking it in terms of how can I put it online and monetize it, but I had no idea of where to go, how to do it, or anything else. And you've just very seemingly easily just sort of sucked it all into one pot and then gone, well, there you go. And I've gone, oh, that's good then. So yes, lots of ideas are bouncing around my head now.
Good.
And my biggest thing with a lot of these things is that I go, well, that seems really a great idea, but because I'm not a techie person, then I go, oh, well, I can't do that because I don't know how to do it. And that's a bit how I was with the website thing, because I think it was about 3 years ago now, I qualified as a yoga teacher, and I thought, oh, I know, I'll do myself a little website for my yoga classes. And somebody talked about Wix, and I thought, well, I'll just go on to Wix and make myself my own little website, and mum's the word and Bob's your uncle. So I've gone to Wix. Well, I couldn't make bloody head and tail of it. And I was just like, oh, well, I won't do that then. And so I left it. So it was only, lockdown and everything else. And somebody else had talked about their website. And I was like, how difficult can it be? So I went back on again. And because, and I know Zoom is nothing to do with websites, but because I'd sort of got to grips with Zoom and some of the technology, I thought, this can't be that difficult. And so I just started playing with it, which was what was lacking last time. I didn't have enough confidence to play. So I did that, and I went, oh, bloody hell, it works. And then I ended up doing more of them.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. So lots to think about between now and when we talk again. Lots for you to, get out of your head and down on a piece of paper. But hopefully it's a great start. And I will, as I say, wrangle all the notes together. And when the recording comes through, I'll send it over, and we're on our way.
Super. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Stella. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Okay. Speak to you soon.
Indeed, you will. Take care, sweetheart.
Okay. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.